Hey, welcome to Dekada 90, where we rewind to a decade that defined a generation. It was a time of raw creativity and diverse sounds, from grunge and hip hop to Britpop and EDM, when music wasn't just a playlist, it was a way of life. Back then, the world was a little more innocent. There was no social media, and discovering new music meant flipping through magazines like Rolling Stone or Alternative Press and watching MTV and listening to the radio for your favorite song so you could record it. For me, all this was happening in the Philippines, where we felt the global pulse. We rocked the flannel shirts and Doc Martens like everybody else, even if it was so hot. We vibed with Oasis and danced to music from DJs from the Ministry of Sound. And in the Philippines, there was also an original Filipino music renaissance. Now I'm reconnecting with the musicians, writers, and artists that I've known, people who lived through that decade and left their mark on it. Together, we'll share their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs, reliving the magic of a time when music and art brought us all together. Let's rewind and press play on Dekada 90. Today's guest is a good friend of mine that I reconnected with after so many years. And we're both based in the US now. She's a talented entertainer. She was in a band. She is a super cool host for live events, TV, corporate events. She's an awesome mom. Ladies and gentlemen, listen in to my conversation with Angel Jones.
Well, first, I want to tell people how I met you. I think people need to know. I was 19 years old and I was a promo girl slash hostess, host, TV host for a show in the 90s. And you were my first writer producer for that show. And I had just visited the Philippines. And as a lot of foreigners that go there, you just end up in this crazy situation of like YOLO, and you end up in these situations where you never knew you thought you'd get into. And next thing you know, I'm a promo girl, which wasn't popular back then. I was a promo girl making a lot of money and hosting a TV show. Um, at 19. So that's how we met. But yeah, I started out in the Philippines. After that, I was a musician, I guess you want to call it, but I looked at it like more of a performer for a 90s group called Kulay. We were the first and I think only Filipino artist to be signed internationally under Sony Music UK. We toured Europe and all that. So the reason I got into that was because of that show that you produced. One of the band members saw me at an editing suite. They were editing that show and they saw me, and their band member had just died and they needed to replace her because they were about to fly to Europe to perform and be showcased for Sony. And so they saw me at that editing seat. So I guess without you or that show, I would have never started this entertainment career. So, anyways, fast forward, I was singing, touring Europe, Philippines. We were on every billboard and poster for Pepsi because we were the first national campaign for Pepsi. So we were everywhere on every sorry store. Our billboards were everywhere. It was kind of amazing. Our band broke up. Another long story. Band broke up, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I don't know. I don't know what to do. All I've ever known was to like sing or be in a band, and I wasn't confident as a singer. So I ended up being a DJ, a radio DJ for RT. 99.5 RT. And from that, when you're a radio host, you also host the live events at night at the bars or whatever. You do the live feed. And that's how I started getting into hosting. Then after that, I'm like, hey, radio makes peanuts. Why don't I try TV? And then I became the first batch of hosts for Urban Mix. I mean, for Mix. Then from Mix, I springboarded to just focus on Urban Mix. which became the number one urban hip hop TV show in Manila. Fast forward, I started producing, ran a production company called Boomer Media, and I was the producer, the host, ran the company, and then got divorced. Now I'm happy. No, I'm kidding. I got divorced, left that company, and I felt like I had to start over and figure out what I wanted to do. So when I was married, we moved to Canada. I had a TV show and a radio show there as well. But when I got divorced, I moved back to the Philippines and started over. I mean, all my, the people that I grew up with, they surpassed me because I stopped. I focused on Canada, raising the kids and all of that. So when I came back, I had to start from scratch, and I was hosting like, it's kind of embarrassing. It was humiliating, actually. It was a very humbling moment. I had to go and remarket myself because in the Philippines, if you disappear, if you're gone, it's like you died, like you completely disappear. So I had to start all over again. And that's when I joined the Red Whistle. I did a lot of advocacy. And then I started hosting little gigs. I mean, I was taking 5,000 to 10,000 peso gigs. I mean, that is a shame. Okay. But I had to start somewhere. I was barely making ends meet. And then it started growing. Your reputation precedes you. You start getting bigger gigs, better paying gigs, and now you can actually eat. And so then my son decides he wanted to be an actor. He came over to the Philippines, and I'm like, F it. Let me be that support system that he never got to be, that I never got to have. I wanted to be that for him. And so I focused on him. And then after 8 years, he's famous and surpasses me in everything I've ever done, even though I had done something international and significant in my own right. I'm so happy for him because he is just such a name in our country. So for me, that brings me so much pride that I was able to be part of that. And I used my experience in entertainment to help him and nurture him. Then after making him successful, I said, you know what? F it. I want a new challenge. Let me move to the States and start over, be a nobody once again, and find a new challenge. And then I reconnect with you. And now we're together trying to do like cool stuff while we have our own respectable careers or respective careers. And I'm enjoying it. I love it. Like I'm starting over, but in a corporate, I made a total switch, but I love it. I'm 46 now and I've had 10 career changes, and I'm enjoying the journey. And then full circle from 19 to 46, I see you
Yeah,
again.
I know.
Crazy.
If there is this nostalgia right now for the 90s, how would you describe it for them, like in music and fashion? What was the 90s for you?
90s for me. Well, I grew up in the 90s, but my brother and sister were 11 years older than me. So I still had a little bit of 80s in me. Like I knew more, I guess, than my age bracket would. So I always felt a little older than people my age. What I like, which I didn't know at the time, but now looking back, we were freaking cool. We did everything first. I'll hear things now and I have to remind people, no, that's just a remix. And that's just a remake of what we had. I don't know. There was like an innocence and it was so pure. And I, send memes to my older friends, of what we had to do in the 90s, like rewinding your cassette with a pencil and recording. You had to catch the song on the radio to record your favorite song. And I don't know, there was something about the 90s in the music. Everything was so innovative. Everything was so new and there was so much creativity because things were being created. Now it just feels like everything is just being regurgitated and they're just trying to remix old things. So it feels great to have grown up in a couple of really awesome decades and to see like the internet happen, cell phones. We had wall phones, even safety. Like we didn't wear helmets, like did the cement get harder? And just even like the world felt safer. Now it's just so freaking scary, and the world, it just seems like a scarier place, so sexualized. Not that R&B and all that wasn't, but it just feels more perverse now. It doesn't feel innocent and just and joyful. It Everything seems so kind of icky now, if that makes sense. I just love the 90s. The fashion was great. I remember I still am hip hop at heart. I love wearing baggy clothes. People hate it because they're like, wear clothes that fit you. I'm like, nah, this is cool. So I think our fashion was awesome. Except for the spandex neon days, but our music was fresh and innovative and raw and natural, and nothing felt remade, rehashed, redone. Everything was new. Everything was a new sound. And the attitudes of people, like hustle was alive. Now everybody just wants to be famous in 5 minutes. It's just so different. And back then, like my band, we became famous, but it was so hard to become famous back then. You had to work really hard for years just to get a certain break. You had to be on TV, on radio, billboards everywhere. To become famous took a lot of work and time. Now you can get famous just by saying something nasty on TikTok, and now you're being paid to go to a club and show up. It's crazy. It's wild. Maybe that's me hating because we had to work extra hard. I'm
It's
not
making
opposed.
it's making me feel now as I ask the question as you look back, just we're the old people that go, back in my day.
Back in my day, I can work
No,
and buy a
but
house.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
can't
yeah,
even
yeah,
do that now.
but I think the innocence is one thing that's different. It's just the
Mhm.
innocence in people's minds as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because for example, like you came from the States and
Hmm.
you're half Filipino, but you're like, what is this place? You wouldn't know until you got there. Now
Oh
I can
yeah.
just watch videos. Oh, that's so
Right.
cool. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. When I went to Manila when I was 19, people didn't wear shorts and tank tops. That was like, no, no, that was scantily clad. That's not, we don't wear stuff like that. Now you go to the Philippines or, everyone dresses like that. But anyways, there was a innocence. So I was even there before I turned 19. So rewind, my mom sent me to the Philippines a lot. And I remember being 15 before I met you, running around Manila, going to clubs at 15 years old. And we weren't scared about these things because, we were just a bunch of kids having fun, experimenting, going to clubs, and nothing bad was going to happen to us.
Back in the 90s, I carried a camera because I was the photographer all the time. I had a
Mm,
big camera and I would bring that everywhere, but I was the only person. And then
right.
it's film. So you would
Mm,
wait to
mm-hmm.
get it. You don't see the pictures right away.
So you develop,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so that's different.
A lot of things like pictures were precious because you never really had them. Now you take a million of the same picture because you have digital. And it was a good and bad thing. It was good because we did a lot of dumb stuff that I'm so glad wasn't documented. But at the same time, I wish it was because there was so much cool stuff happening. And like you said, people didn't care as much of what people thought. So we were more creative with our clothing, with what we did. I think we thought differently. Now everything's carefully curated because we're so worried about what other people will think of us. And we're in an age where you better not mess up because someone's going to videotape it, they're going to record it and they'll have evidence, and then you'll get canceled, and then you'll get in trouble. Unlike back then, you can do whatever the hell you want and no one would ever know because no one was there to document. But I do wish I got to document a little bit more. I think they did a lot of cool stuff.
But I think maybe the lesson is that they want, the new generation wants to take something from the 90s, and it's the first time anyone said the innocence, like what you've said.
Mm,
Maybe that's what people are trying to reclaim. And you also,
probably.
yeah, you mentioned how it's hustling then was different from hustling now, right? Because
Hmm.
people say, oh, hustle culture now, but they keep
Hmm.
talking about it, but they're not actually doing it. They're not actually
Right.
hustling. They will
Well,
record that I'm hustling, but
yes.
they're not.
I don't know. The hustle now is kind of different. It's more scamming. People,
Right.
there's a lot of scams happening because everybody wants to get rich quick. Back then, the hustle was still innocent. You're just trying to get by. You just want to live for tomorrow and pay for your bills. Now it's like you want to take it's so greedy, and it's done in such a
Mm,
way that's so evil, you know all
right.
the Madoff, the scams that take people's lives saving. It's just so evil now.
You know what?
Back,
You're right. It's like scammy. Like the
it's
thing
very
is,
scammy.
it's like back then you would hear of one scam in a million, like, and
Hmm.
one in a million. What? That scam happened. Now
Hmm.
every day there's a scam.
You get a text for a scam every day. There's a scam for everything. It's just so icky. The world is
How do
kind of
we
icky
turn
now.
back?
I
Exactly.
don't
We need
know.
a, I don't know how to turn it back.
We
I don't
can,
think we
but
can. How
go
you think
ahead.
we can? Go for
I don't think we can, but we can be pieces of light and hope, I mean, all I've learned that you got to be, and it sounds super corny, change that you want to see. I mean, I can't change everyone. I can't turn back time, but I don't mind being a ray of light, in the area of darkness. So I'll keep the innocence alive. I'll be that positive force, or I'll be less icky for everyone.
And with that, I think we end here. And that's the lesson for everybody listening to this on a podcast or watching this on YouTube. Be less icky.
Icky. That's just
Okay,
one of our thoughts.
that's a great thought to carry on through the rest of the year.
Hmm.
We will be less icky. And thank you
Less
so much
icky. I love it.
thanks for joining me today.
Well,
Um,
you're awesome.